Okay, Tab, so here we've got another common example of what we see, how a setup error can influence the moment of impact.
Big time.
Now this golfer here, we were talking about earlier, we're studying the swing, going the ins and outs, and the relatability to so many golfers out there of what this gentleman here does in his golf swing.
Yeah.
He came to you, he was struggling with, what was he struggling with?
Struggling with strike, obviously, which is a big problem amongst a lot of recreational golfers, right? What they're trying to improve, but particularly with him was club face of delivery, missing a lot of balls to the right. So the ball was right, and from there we move forward and we try to work out why it's going right.
Yeah, absolutely. And using the analysis tool here, we can see what the professional does over here on the left-hand side. Let's talk about an area of the lead arm, so the left hand for the right-hander, which you identified as one of the leading issues that was causing the inconsistency here.
Yeah, great. Well, do you want to take us into impact?
Yeah, sure.
And take a bit of a look at impact here. This is the most important position, right? It's going to tell us the story of what's about to go on. What we can see there, right, is his lead arm, so his left arm there, how it's broken down, right? And also where the elbow is positioning and what's going on with that there as a reaction to the club face.
Yeah, and we can highlight this quite simply just by using these sort of reference lines here of that breakdown of structure of really both those arms. We'd almost just call that a chicken wing, right? That's one of the most Googled search terms out there, versus, let's say, somewhat of a straight line structure through the golf ball here. Now, there's slight variations to this relative to matchups for high-level golfers, but we're talking about a recreational golfer here who's struggling with one of the fundamentals of golf, which is getting his ball started on his intended line and creating a quality and consistent impact, right? So
100%.
we're reverse engineering it. We have a look at impact. We're not making these changes for the sake of aesthetics. This guy is struggling, okay?
Yeah.
So we look back at the address based on that, and we can start to see some differences here with his lead arm position, specifically the inside of his elbow. So let's call that the elbow crease. So over here on the right-hand side, we've got that covered out in the red circle, and over here on the left with the professional in the green, we can see quite a distinct difference there in the orientation of that part of the arm, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
It's one of the setup cues that go very unnoticed.
Huge.
People do not talk about this enough as the reaction it does have on the left arm. And I'm excited to share this one with everyone, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you set up to this ball? Let's have a look and show us what the recreational golfer here is struggling to do. Or the recreational golfer here is doing in their address position, which then causes that inconsistency later on for us.
Yeah, to exaggerate that point of what we can see there, right, when looking at the lead elbow here, okay, is that it's starting to look really far down the target line like that. So when that looks down like this way here, you can see the pressure is going to come in this area, right?
Big time.
So they can't actually fold it over. Now, if you were to hold that club up like that and then I just lift that left elbow, it's going to make it very challenging for that club face to close. Particularly the only way I can close it is through a breakdown of the lead wrist. So then I'm relying on the lead wrist to try and help me close that club face there, which is, shortening my arc, and my low point control is going to be everywhere. And, you can miss it left doing this, but a lot of the time, if you don't get that lead wrist right, the ball's going to go right.
Yeah, big time, big time.
So like you mentioned before, we start at setup. You want to come in and we'll demonstrate it?
Yeah, sure. So let's say that I'm in this, and I'll be really interested to see here because I've got a certain process and structure that we'll talk about after you show me, and we can see how it differs, because it's always interesting to hear different perspective from coaches to show how they work through this process with their students, because there's so many different ways to do it, achieving the same outcome. It's just all the way that's communicated, right? So address position, assuming everything else is pretty reasonable in the setup, we're going to have a look at this lead arm. We're going to recreate this look that we see with the recreational golfer. So the elbow crease is facing in, the elbow's pointing towards the target, right? What else are we doing from here?
So what you'll see, that's what it looks like from there, right? And one of the key things, if I get asked the question all the time, I get asked the question, what's, one of the keys to good ball striking is I'll often say the relationship between the insides of the forearms at impact, and we want to be able to do that at the address position. So you can see here, the inside of your forearm is all the way around here. So there's a big inconsistency going on there. So as soon as if we could get that lead elbow to be looking more towards the oblique muscles in that area there, now we do have a few points of reference, and that's one of them there. You'll see the insides of your forearms are here. You call it the crease line, I call it the armpit. I'm not too sure what it is there. But when you're doing this, an important thing about this, so this is obviously key number one to making this change, right, is adjusting the setup. Is that, show me that again, so show me to here, is that we want to do it without affecting our grip, right? So if you were to even show the camera, just take your left arm, just hold your left arm out. Great. So the recreational golfer was there, the amateur golfer was there. Now we can see that actually sometimes a lot of the time causes a weak left-hand grip as well.
Yeah.
So if we can get that to go in this way here, you demonstrate that beautifully about how your forearm there did not affect your grip.
Oh, and in my coaching practice all the time, this is one of the key setup videos that I give a lot of players, is just understanding that these two can separate and move differently. And what we see with the professional is that there is a distinct difference between where this is on average and this, right?
Yeah.
And we find that most amateur golfers will either have a super weak grip in which this will be in such a position where it starts to break down the structure, or even sometimes this, and there's just a lot of variation between this palm here and this elbow crease. They're always facing the same direction, but we see with the professional, they actually turn that palm down, the elbow crease is facing up, and then we go through this structure of ensuring that this is facing out towards the camera. Now, there's all little variations of these that can work. We're not going to talk about that, but as a general rule of thumb, we generally see that the pro would tend to have this more out than closed in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now, for the amateur golfer as well, completely changes the feel of the grip, because a lot of them aren't used to this cupping, and you hear that all the time. They think that's a bad thing. Well, the pro is getting this look. Why would I start like that?
Yes.
There's a lot of variations to how that would be holding the grip, but essentially what that means is that you're able to create a strong lead arm structure, holding the golf club securely in the right part of the hand, and a natural product of that is that we see that there's a bit of cupping in that lead wrist, okay? Yeah. So this is where the pro would set up. Anything else that you'd like to add to that?
That's pretty much it. So what that allows you to do, and people are, if people are at home now and they're talking about their grip, trying to potentially, help their grip, there's a lot of videos on how to do that, but not a lot on the left elbow structure there, that lead elbow structure. So that could potentially help them with their grip as well. They're looking to strengthen their grip. But that's pretty much where I'd be. Okay. The insides of the forearms closer together.
Yep.
That's gonna probably bring the left arm more, or your lead arm across your chest there. It's gonna maintain a stronger top hand grip, and you're gonna feel ready to move from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that obviously this golf club coming in and this effect here, elbow pointing in that direction, breaking down. This is going to feel wildly different. A lot of players, when they first get into this position, they feel like that face is going to shut big time.
Yep.
And they think that the ball's going to go around their left ankle, out of bounds over there.
Yeah.
But that's the feeling that they need to get, right?
Yeah.
So now that we've got them into the setup, let's talk about the differences through impact. The player that was here, we generally see by this stage of the swing, as that recreational golfer demonstrated, the little chicken wing, extension of that wrist there. Now, what we would like to see is, like Robert was demonstrating here, a lot better structure to the arms, this length, the distance between the elbows. So what's a drill and exercise that you would get me to do if I was in this position that I was setting up like this? We've got our good arm structure. What's next?
Well, from there, it's about short shots now. So we've got the setup change right. Now we need to train the brain on how to react differently through the ball.
Okay.
And the brain now, we have a chance now with our body to be able to move the way we want to. We've actually got to give ourselves a chance now. So we need to retrain on how to move the right way. A lot of the time that golfer's been going this way here, right, getting that breakdown through the left wrist. So for me, it's a lot of shorter shots. And the checkpoint that I love to use the most is that I will be here and moving to right arm parallel to the ground, to here, because to me that's a place that we can measure, right? We can measure what happened through here. We don't want to generally talk about telling people what to do at impact because it's a bit of a stalling motion at times and it's difficult to measure, right? But if I swing you through to, trail arm parallel to the ground there, you'll get this kind of look like this. And what we're looking to see here, right, is a longer left arm, left elbow looking more behind you there, and that, I guess, the left arm and the shaft, kind of align there, but depending on flight.
Within reason, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to retrain this, that this can actually roll over.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah. So this here, technical term is called supination through the golf ball, or external rotation, right? Now, we generally see that the pro would be definitely looking a lot more like this rather than that, okay? Yeah. So you're saying hitting little, or even starting off with little rehearsals, just swinging from hip height through to right arm level with the ground, feeling that this structure is out. Now, I suppose one thing, or a comment to add here, which is very important, it shouldn't be stiff and rigid, guys. We need to be a little bit relaxed when we're doing that, because that is going to allow our wrists to function correctly and create the release. If we're just trying to hold it tight and tense like that, you can't move that into a dynamic motion. Yeah,
we want to be able to release now. That student before has been trying to stop and stall, and they've been getting a little bit, as you call, stuck. And under more pressure, they're getting more and more trouble. But also in regards to letting us, get to that position that we're looking to try and do there, as you call, like lead arm supinating there, or rolling it over that way there, is sometimes putting an alignment aid out in front. and showing them and teaching them what we want that ball to be doing. So giving them that external feel of seeing that ball track that way and what's actually required to do that. And the student will start to learn on how that club face is going to move.
Yeah, so what Toby's saying here is that this player specifically who was struggling with this was starting at left and they were curving it too far to the right, or the ball was pretty much starting right of his intended line pretty much every time. There was too much of this bias as such. And by getting this extension and this external rotation of this lead arm through the golf ball, that's going to allow this player to get this delivery coming a little bit more from the inside, get the face close to the path and start to get the draw, which at the end of the day, we're here to fix ball flight, right? Yeah. That's going to help them shoot lower scores. That's why they're getting in touch. It's not just about fixing positions for the sake of the aesthetic.
I agree. And you'll start to feel through that shorter shot there, you'll start to see a consistent flight, because this is going to give you some inconsistency. You'll start to see that ball, starting to listen to you a little bit more. And once you start to learn that, then start to try and load it under more pressure and more speed. But it is very important that you learn to do this task under slow speed.
Yeah, mate, great information there. I'm going to add in one little drill that you guys can practice at home that works extremely well, which also gives the same awareness. Is actually just grab your backhand like this and you open it up so you're pulling your palm in this direction and you place it behind your lead elbow. Now from here, 2 reasons why I love this drill. Number 1, we feel this point of connection. Number 2, you can see that the elbow crease is facing out. But then also through the ball, if you get this feeling that elbow is trying to break through, well, straight away you see that's the structure that we're not looking for. The professional, even just making small, slow rehearsals of getting the feeling of this lead arm never pulling across. So if I just make a small swing, follow through, turn back towards the camera, you can see it's still very much in line. The hands need to stay relatively in front of the body. That would be the objective. Now, you don't want to hit golf balls doing this, but just getting the feeling, you're just going to start to feel that this club face itself might be doing something wildly different. And because of the force of the back of the hand, pulling this arm more towards my body, this is going to stay more out rather than doing that, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so we're going to hit a one shot here. We'll do a couple of small rehearsals talking about what Toby was just describing there so well. Arm structure's looking good. Lead elbow crease is facing more up towards the camera. Getting that nice long look at the club shaft away from my body, but making sure I'm not being too tense. That feels really good. Let's chip one down there. Let's check out this ball flight.
Great. And I think what you did so brilliantly well there is it's important when training a drill that the ball is maybe exaggerating the flight of what you want it to do. So it's important that if you are this person who's going through this issue is that you start to actually see that ball move right to left. Because that person beforehand was moving that ball, from the, let me just jump in here, was jumping in this way here, like this here. I only ever seen the ball that way there. I think it's very important, and you demonstrated it brilliantly there, that you actually moved that ball right to left. Yeah, that's super important.
Incredible information. That's going to help a lot of the guys out there. Well done.
Great. Thanks, man.